Another question they can ask you, you probably never thought about that, is the name of your spouse. Okay, believe it or not, some people, they are married, but they don't really know the full name of their spouse. That's a shame. You should know that. Okay, when they ask you what is the name of your spouse, you should be able to tell the consular officer the name of your spouse. USA Mon. Hello, my beautiful people. Welcome back. If it's your first time here, welcome. In today's video, we're gonna talk about spousal visa interview. Yes, I know a lot of you guys are waiting for your interview appointment letter to go to your spousal visa interview. So what is spousal visa interview? Just an interview of a wife of a U.S. citizen, a husband of a U.S. citizen, a wife of a green card holder, a husband of a green card holder. That's a spousal visa, basically a visa for spouse, okay? So now, when you go to that interview, what type of question do you think the interviewer will ask you? Are you prepared for those questions the interviewer will ask you? How are you going to answer those questions? That's what we're going to cover in this video. I'm going to give you my ideas about, different questions the interviewer can ask you based on my knowledge, based on my research, based on my friends' experiences and all that. Okay, so without further ado, let's start it. So guys, if you petition for your relative, okay, and the case moved to NVC, you submit the document, pay the fees, NVC review everything. Now your spouse is waiting for interview appointment letter. Once your spouse receives the interview appointment letter, he or she will go to the interview. Okay, so some of the questions, the interviewer can ask your spouse. So this is not legal advice, okay? So some of the questions the interviewer can ask your spouse is basically how you guys met, okay? So it's one of the questions a lot of people, a lot of visa applicant who went to the spousal visa interview say that they will ask how you guys met. So basically, the interviewer want to know how you guys met. Okay, simple as that. Like I always tell you guys, don't give a long answer. You tell the interviewer how you guys met in a short answer. If the interviewer asks the following question, yes, you explain it, but again, don't talk too much, okay? Short answer. That's one of the questions. Another question is, what type of job your spouse has. They can ask you that question. So what I'm saying here is that when you go to the visa interview, I'm not saying that that's the exact question they're going to ask you, but they might ask you some of those questions. You just have to prepare yourself for it, okay? So what type of job your spouse has. So it's better for you to communicate with your spouse to know what type of job he has, what he's doing, his occupation and stuff like that. You have to know that before the interview. Another thing is your husband or your spouse has kids? If yes, how many? How old are those kids? Remember, if your husband or your spouse or your wife has kids, you put those information on the form, the I-130 form, the DS-260 form, all those, different form you fill out, you will put those information there. Okay, if your family members information, stuff like that. And, like I told you, the interviewer will ask you questions based on the information you provide on the form, based on the document you provide and stuff like that. Okay, they're not just going to create something, something out of the blue and ask you. Okay, it's always related to the document you provide. So they ask you that, okay? If your husband or your spouse has kids, or how many, how old they are, and stuff like that, okay? So they can also ask you where you're gonna live when you go to the United States. Even though they know your spouse lives in the United States, they still can ask you where you're gonna live. So do you know the state, the city where your husband or your wife lives? So you have to know those information. Those are little information you have to know, okay? Another thing they can ask you is that, was your spouse married before? Okay, if your spouse married before, you will know. I'm sure your spouse will talk to you about that. So they want to know if you guys, have a communication about, previous relationships, stuff like that. They can ask you. Okay, I'm not saying they will ask you, but they can ask you. Okay, they can also ask you how you guys communicate. Yes, what I mean by that. So before we get to that, if you discover me for the first time, my name is John. My main goal here is to help newcomers, permanent residents, and also some U.S. citizens regarding I-130 process in general and some other topics, anything that can help newcomers to have a better life here in the United States of America. And like I said, they can ask you how you guys communicate. You guys communicate over the phone. You guys communicate by email, how you guys communicate, and how often you guys communicate. Yeah, they can ask you that question. And I'm talking about spousal visa here, okay? So I hope you are watching from the beginning. You don't just move the forward the video. I'm talking about spousal visa interview, okay? Some of those questions they can ask you. Another question they can ask you, when was the last time you saw your spouse? They can ask you that question. When was the last time you saw your spouse? Was it 2 months ago? Was it a year ago? 2 years ago? 6 months ago? Well, they can ask you that. Maybe your spouse, move to your home country and where you live, and your spouse came and see you there. You just tell them when exactly your spouse came, because they know when your spouse travel to your country, they have that information. So when they ask you, just tell them when your spouse, you guys see each other, last time you guys see each other. Okay, they will ask you that question. Another thing they can ask you, what else? What else? Who were at your wedding? Like, or where your wedding took place. They can ask you that question, and who were present. You can mention who the person who were present at your wedding. Those are questions. You don't think they can ask you that question, but they can ask you that question. Okay, and then another thing. Another question they can ask you probably never thought about that, is the name of your spouse. Okay, believe it or not, some people, they are married but they don't really know the full name of their spouse. That's a shame. You should know that. Okay, when they ask you what is the name of your spouse, you should be able to tell the consular officer the name of your spouse. Okay, because you're going to live with your spouse, you don't know your spouse, then that's not good. That's your spouse. You should know that, okay? That's another thing they can ask you. Just some stuff that come out of on top of my mind based on, like I said, my researches, my experience, and, what I heard interviewer when, the question they were asked and stuff like that. What else? What is another question I can think of? When, like, how long ago you guys get married? They can ask you that as well. Okay, if it's been 10 years, 5 years, 2 years, you should know. Okay, and like I always tell you, if there are something you thought about, you don't know about your spouse, or you can the spouse, or who is the petitioner, you can talk to your spouse, ask them that question before you go to the interview. So those are some of the questions the interviewer can ask you. And like I said, this is a spouse visa interview. I'm gonna do another video. We talk about different questions they can ask your parent when they go to the visa interview, IR5 visa interview questions. We're gonna cover there. Some questions they can ask your children when they go to the interview, like F3 category, F1 category, F2A category. I'm gonna make some videos about those. I made a video about those questions before. Some of you guys who are new on the channel, I'm just thinking about start making some of the video, like just talk natural instead of reading step one, question number one, question number two, three, and all that. Now, just wanna come here, talk to you like I'm talking to my friend, somebody that I know. Don't, instead of thinking about reading the paper or go step by step, all those stuff. Now, just naturally, like I'm doing right now. Okay, so well, I hope you like this video. If you do, all you gotta do is click on the like button, share the video, and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you in another video.
USA Monde.